During the Second World War, the aeroplane was a highly versatile and efficient weapons platform. From fighters to bombers, the conflict would push the limits of aviation engineering, but it was the fighter aircraft that had become the driving force in immortalizing some of the most incredible flying machines to grace the skies. Whilst there were many famous warbirds in the conflict, I've selected a few aircraft that were, in my opinion, the most recognizable, and for this reason, I've split this video into a few episodes. My name is Liam Smith, and welcome to World War Military History. With its distinctive elliptical wings and the thunderous roar of its Rolls-Royce Merlin engine, the mere sight and sound of the Supermarine Spitfire continues to grip the imagination of aircraft enthusiasts. In the summer of 1940, this graceful machine, along with the Hawker Hurricane, helped save Britain during its darkest hour. Throughout the Second World War, the Spitfire would continue to undergo several modifications in its armament and engine for increased firepower and speed. The armament, for example, in the early models, consisted of the .303 Browning machine gun and the 20mm Hispano cannon. Rolls-Royce Merlin engine, which had a float carburetor, produced roughly 1,030 horsepower. It would eventually be phased out in favour of the more powerful Rolls-Royce Griffon, which produced over 2,050 horsepower. The Spitfire would continue to see operational service with the RAF up until the 1950s.
A few of these famous aircraft have been operated on daily Met flights, helping in the task of weather forecasting. But now, 21 years after the prototype first flew, the last of the Spitfires are to be retired. Their day is done, though 3 Spits will be kept by the RAF for Battle of Britain flypasts, commemorating the battle they did so much to win.
It was the longest serving Allied aircraft in the Second World War, with a total of 24 marks being built. At the time of its introduction in 1937, the Messerschmitt Bf-109 was the most advanced and capable fighter platform, serving as the main backbone of the Luftwaffe's fighter force until the arrival of the Focke-Wulf 190 in 1941. Armament consisted of the 7.92mm MG-17 machine gun and the 20mm MG-FF cannon, which in later variants could fire a steel cartridge exploding mine shell. For an additional punch in firepower, a 20mm MG-FF cannon or 20mm MG151 cannon in later models was fitted into the engine and fired through the propeller shaft. This was known as a motorkanon. The engine that powered the Bf 109 models was the Daimler-Benz 600 series inline engine, which produced over 1,050 horsepower. The power output would increase up to 1,973 horsepower. The Daimler-Benz was an inverted engine, possessing a highly advanced fuel injection system, unlike the float carburetor of the Rolls-Royce Merlin series powering the British Spitfire and Hurricane. This allowed the pilot to perform negative G maneuvers without the fuel being cut off, a flaw that was present in the early Spitfire and Hurricane models. One of the biggest flaws of the Bf 109 was the narrow track undercarriage, and many aircraft were lost to accidents throughout the course of the war. Many variants of the Bf 109 were produced throughout the Second World War, from the definitive E to the G and K models. It was the most mass-produced fighter aircraft in history, with over 34,000 to have been built from 1936 to 1945. Designed by Alexander Kartveli and seeing action in the European and Pacific theatres, the Republic P-47 Thunderbolt, or known by its nickname the Jug, was one of the best American fighter aircraft of the Second World War. Powered by the air-cooled 18-cylinder Pratt & Whitney R2800 double Wasp radial engine and a 4-bladed propeller, the P-47 Thunderbolt was an absolute beast of an aircraft. The engine's power output was a staggering 2,000 horsepower and could endure a significant amount of punishment from enemy fire. It was armed to the teeth with 8 50 caliber Browning AN M2 machine guns, 4 in each wing, and could carry a maximum bomb load of up to 1,100 kilograms. When fully loaded, the aircraft weighed over 8 tons.
Thousands of rounds of ammunition are stored in its wings. Guns are tested on the ground.
The aircraft was not without its flaws, as it had a slow rate of climb and sluggish acceleration. However, despite these weaknesses, the Thunderbolt possessed a good roll rate and was very fast in a dive. It excelled in the ground attack and escort role at high altitudes. By the conclusion of the war in Europe, the P-47 would destroy over 7,000 enemy aircraft. In 1940, the Japanese possessed without a doubt one of the finest fighter aircraft of the Second World War, the Mitsubishi A6M0, or Ziki by Allied pilots. Designed by Jiro Horikoshi and powered by the 14-cylinder air-cooled Nakajima Sakai radial engine, the Zero could reach a top speed of 565 km/h. In order to make a more effective and extremely agile plane, the aircraft was built with a top-secret aluminium alloy called extra super dura aluminium, which was lighter and stronger than other alloys provided at the time. However, the alloy on the aircraft was also prone to damage, and the pilot would have to use a special foothold to climb into the cockpit. There was no armor protection for the engine, pilot, or other critical parts of the aircraft, along with the decision to not include self-sealing fuel tanks on the earlier models. This caused it to easily catch fire if an enemy round managed to rupture one of the fuel tanks. The sacrifices to reduce weight made the Zero lighter, extremely maneuverable at low speeds, and the longest-range single-engine fighter of World War II. The Zero possessed two cowl-mounted 7.7mm 30 caliber machine guns, and 2 x 20mm cannons in the wings. The Zero dominated the Pacific in the early years of the Second World War, with pilots gaining a kill ratio of 12-1. But as the war progressed, the Zero was eventually outclassed by more advanced American fighters such as the F-4U Corsair, and tactics to exploit the Zero's weaknesses. In the last years of World War II, the aircraft would be utilized in kamikaze squadrons. With its inverted cranked gull wings and long nose, the VOUGHT F-4U Corsair was one of the most iconic fighters of the Second World War. This awesome piston engine aircraft represented the very pinnacle of American World War II aviation. First entering combat service in 1943 and seeing action in the Korean War and several Cold War conflicts, the Corsair earned a fearsome reputation as a fighter and as an attack aircraft. The Corsair was powered by the 18-cylinder Pratt & Whitney R2800 double Wasp radial engine, which produced over 2,000 horsepower. One of the most distinctive features of this aircraft was the sound it made. The intake for the aircraft's turbo supercharger intercooler and oil cooler were located in slots in the inboard leading edges of the cranked wings. When enough air at high speeds was sucked through these inlets, it produced the iconic whistling sound that the Japanese tagged with the moniker "Whistling Death." The standard armament of the Corsair was 6 M2 Browning 50 caliber heavy machine guns, 3 in each wing. The aircraft initially suffered a number of landing problems on US Navy carrier decks, with many of them ending in tragedy. However, the Corsair would become a highly feared opponent against the Japanese aircraft, with US pilots gaining an 11-1 kill ratio. During the bloody battles of Iwo Jima and Okinawa, Corsairs relentlessly hammered Japanese positions. After the conclusion of the Second World War, the Corsair flew extensively as a fighter bomber in the Korean War and the French colonial wars in Indochina and Algeria. Thank you so much as always for watching. I really enjoy making these history videos. And don't forget to give this a like and to subscribe for more content. Until then, stay tuned. I'll see you next time.